What's up, baby? Welcome to Re-Frag, and my name is Drewface. This is my co-host.
I'm Scooter, and today we're going to be talking about Valorant, a player getting DQ'd for being Mexican. And we're going to be talking about Simple closing out Katowice already this year, Navi looking strong. We're going to be talking about a little bit about the 100 Thieves Gucci drop. We've seen what it is, and you're going to get all that information. And finally, we're going to be talking about the update on the Siege Dark Zero skin copyright situation, and there's a bit of an update on that as well. So Drew, let's go hop right into the Valorant news.
Yeah, so Virtuoso disqualified themselves because the team that they were playing against, they got disqualified on a technicality. And that technicality wasn't because someone cheated. It wasn't because faulty hardware or bad internet connection. It was because PAX invited a player without doing their research, and this player happened to be from Mexico. And this tournament was supposed to be North American only. Now, I don't know about you, but according to my geography, Mexico is North American. Now, I guess they have one of the worst internet infrastructures in the fucking world. That's fine. I get it. That's why a lot of North American tournaments often exclude them. But Valorant's good enough that Mexico can kind of play. And yeah, PAX Arena invited this team who had this player, and they didn't do any research. So Virtuoso thought, hey, I don't like that we won like that. And B, it's not their fault for making it to winners finals and not, and then not being able to play it out with them. Like this just feels very hollow. And so they disqualify themselves after obviously the other team disqualified themselves. And I thought it was a very honorable thing to do because one, it's not about the money sometimes, right? It's only $10,000. And like Virtuosos are teams that qualified for challengers before, or they made it to challengers, like a really good run in challengers. And like they're like, no, like this doesn't feel right. And I felt like it was surprising because most of the time a team would take that victory, they would sit in like grand finals just to make more money, but they didn't. They just disqualified themselves. And for the first time in my life, there's no winners finals.
Yep.
Like in an esports tournament. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, a big ups to Virtuoso because you know just the way they handled it on socials, and they talked about it openly too. And they were like, yeah, you know what, we don't want to win like that. And I get the competitive spirit that everybody wants to win, but it's amazing when people, like you said, a lot of people would take that easy win and would take the money. But it is so refreshing to see an org and a team, and they all decide, we don't want that. We want to win because we won. We want to show our skills and show why we win this event, not because somebody got unfairly disqualified. Because, like, I get it. Like you said, the infrastructure for their internet isn't the greatest, but most other tournaments, like lands and stuff, you're allowed, even if it's a North American team only, you're usually allowed at least two players from a different country. Like whether you have two Europeans for a North American team, you have two Mexicans, or you have two like APAC region players. And it's like, I don't understand what the tournament's problem in the first place was.
They honestly, this is on the organizer's fault. They invited Easy Five, right? To the tournament, and they didn't do their research.
Yeah.
Right, at all. And then you waited until winners finals to like say, hey, DQ'd, the Mexican player who got DQ'd because he's from Mexico, you're disqualified. Like what?
Yeah.
Like that's insane. And I heard that from my understanding of the situation, Virtuoso and Easy Five were trying to make this happen. Like they're trying to find any way for it to have this winners finals match, because let's face it, you're both in winners finals. That's where people want to watch you. That's where most of your eyes want to be. Like you guys are like cruising to like the top of the sum of this tournament, to the bracket of this tournament. And it's like, okay, now you're DQ'd because you're decop, you're Mexican, and we don't allow that. And you waited that long because FPS tournaments take forever, dog. Like,
yeah,
this could have happened at round one.
Like, yeah, and that's the biggest thing, right? Like I feel like if that slips past your nose, if you're the TO, at that point you've got to let it go. Like you got to be like, and that's the thing, both teams were okay with it. So it's not really like, a lot of the time, yeah, TOs do have final say, But for most of the TOs that I know, if they walk around the event and they talk to both teams and they say, "Are you guys okay with it? Are you guys okay with it?" And both teams go, "Yeah, we're all right with it. It's fine." Then okay, no problem. But for some reason, they took it upon themselves to be like, "Oh, both teams are okay with this. Well, we're not okay with this." And it's like they want to play the game. They just want to play. Both teams are fine with it. Let them play. And I get it because like we've seen a lot in the past couple of weeks where Mexican players are very upset, especially in the siege game like
Yeah.
scene, because um they're playing in the South American League where
Yeah.
they want to be playing in the North American League because it's
Yeah.
better for them, and for a lot of them, because they're closer to the border, it's better for their internet. Like they're paying better to North American leagues, and obviously North American League is on LAN.
Yes.
So like, who can you blame? They want to play the best of their game, and you're already putting them at a deficit.
And it's silly because yeah, under Riot, Mexico is part of Latin America, right? And
Yeah,
then the worst part is this tournament was locked to like US and Canada. And then they invited Easy Five. They're like, yeah, you could come. You're a good team. Like you're not like an A, like you're not an S tier team, but you're an A tier team. Come play. And then obviously these guys are like, okay, well, I mean, we have a Mexican player, and they're like, yeah, sure, whatever, don't care. And
yeah,
all of a sudden, winners finals happens, slap them. Yeah, the Packs fucked up on that one,
yeah.
for
They
sure.
they really did. But I mean,
Yeah.
speaking of another grand finals, Simple Navi taking home Cologne this past couple of weeks, and they've been looking strong while doing it. Navi, I mean, yeah, that's Simple doing simple things.
Simple had the most aces ever at a CS tournament with four aces in Counter Strike. Like, let me tell you, getting even a 4K is amazing. But he had four freaking aces. He had to kill five people. And like you confirm this with me, but the reputation I've heard from Navi, it's always been simple carries and electronics sometimes doesn't work, right? But
Yeah,
like it seems like this Navi team is finally shaping up to be a very, very strong contender because they were extremely dominant. They beat everybody in their warpath.
yeah. I mean, for Navi, the big thing this year is going to be, can they? Well, everybody's looking at Navi and Simple to finally win a major. And if you are newer to CS, or you're just not, you don't really catch it, and you're just listening in, Simple is the best player in the world for CS:GO. He has won the number one spot multiple times, bar a couple stolen away from Zywoo. Um, but he's never won a major. And every time they get close, they're shut down.
Nope.
And the big thing for him this year is that as everybody returns to LAN, this Navi team is looking really strong. But people are asking the questions of, one, is it the time for Navi? And two, is this the first LAN jitters? Like, is everybody getting comfortable again? Are we going to see someone else be really dominant? And I love the competition, but I want to see a Navi year. Navi need a major. They need it under their belts.
Yeah, and they're close to getting the Grand Slam too. This is definitely their year, right? They have 3 wins.
Yeah.
They literally have more wins in the Intel Grand Slam season than anyone else. They have to get one of these majors. Now, you're explaining to me off the podcast before we started this podcast that CS:GO is really weird. Like, so in the FGC, our tournament seasons, like maybe one or two tournaments are like there's like a variation of it, but it's been super consistent, right? There's a ton of legacy in the FGC. So a major will be like these 4 or 5 tournaments every fucking year for the FGC. It will never change. It will never change unless the tournament organizers a scumbag, which by the way has happened, but that's another story for another time. But in CS:GO, it seems like anything can be a major. We don't know what determines it. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So we were talking off podcast. We were talking about how like Katowice was a major last year, or sorry, in
Yeah.
2019. But it's not going to be this year. And the same with Cologne. Cologne was a major in 2015, 2016, and I believe 2017. And this one that Simple just won isn't a major.
Yeah, and
And
I think that's totally messed up because like technically he would have won a major. And shouts to my mom. And then yeah, he would have won a major this year. Like literally 2 majors because he won Katowice in 2020. He won like another Katowice tournament in 2021, and then now he's won Cologne. Like this guy, and dude, these pot bonuses are crazy, dog. Like they're like $500,000 American, which is like at least $20 zillion in Canada.
Yeah.
So it's like he's winning as much money as if he's won a major. Like just why are we making the like every if Simple wins the tournament, does that mean that tournament is not a major anymore? Like what's going on?
They're just plotting it around Simple. What's he attending? We're gonna make it not a major. But
Not a major.
in all seriousness, though, that I think the weirdest part for me as well we had touched on is so all these events changing, and I personally don't even know what determines it, whether it's like whether a company pays the most money to get a major. Because I saw on the list that PGL's returning, and PGL hasn't really had anything going on for a while.
I didn't know what PGL was, and I've been following CS for 7 years.
Yeah, I think they've only ever had one major in the past, and I think it was in Russia. And it's weird because the prize pooling, like you said, like the Grand Slam is an extra. I think it's $1 million if you win all four, and that's like major money, literally major money.
Yeah, it's major money.
Yeah, but the weirdest thing is CS fluctuates so much. Some years we've got $1 million tournaments like the Boston Major, I believe, and like a couple of the E-League events, and then a couple of other tournaments have been 1 million. But then next year it's going to be like 400,000, and first place only walks away with like 250, and it just doesn't make sense. And it's like CS, and again, it leads to like one of our very early episodes. If you haven't seen it, we like to go on our tangents about Valve, and Valve just needs to do what they do for CS, or sorry, do what they do for Dota, but for CS. And we'd see CS thrive. CS would be a completely different game. Can you imagine a community funded case where everybody who opens it, a portion goes to the teams, a portion goes to the major? It would be the biggest event in esports history. I can almost guarantee it.
And here's the thing about CS, right? From a person from the FGC side, I saw a grassroots community, CSGO, grow, evolve, continue, creating a whole ecosystem for itself to become this fucking Goliath that's almost, it's the third biggest esports in the world. Like, right? It's the third biggest one. After League, after Dota, it's CSGO. And I'm just saying they're like, and the thing is, what makes it unique, CSGO, and this is what people fucking forget. Despite all the crazy sponsorships, despite all these other like, official backing from major companies, it's grassroots. Like a lot of these companies started literally from the infancy of CS:GO. Like a lot of your organizers, a lot of like all these other fucking things. Like even Blast is supported by Faceit, right? Faceit started as a fucking service, like 128 tick server service, right? These are all things that are organic and endemic to its game, and it's like it's incredible to see how far CS has grown within itself, within its own community. Now, if Valve Bucket did something with it, holy crap! Like, I get why it's very hard, right? Because like, let's face it, Siege, they say it's a simulation, and you're playing it with characters, people who are like made up. CS doesn't fuck around. It gives it to you raw. It's like this is a terrorist from Russia with sunglasses, aviator. We gave him aviators for some reason versus a guy in a balaclava who calls himself a counter-terrorist for the Swedish army. Like that's like they're not fucking around. Like they're just like there's like 32 rounds of these guys killing each other as a counter-terrorist and terrorist. Like that's that's probably the biggest. That's a hurdle, right?
Yeah, it's hard to give traditional sponsors that and them actually wanting to get behind it. The weirdest thing for me is gotta be like forget about the prize pool, forget about Valve's involvement. The biggest thing people don't seem to understand is even though CS has its quiet marks, like I'd say definitely during COVID, CS had a huge dip in viewership. But when it's not COVID and where we are at lands and stuff, almost every major breaks Twitch. Like CS is always breaking viewer records and stuff. And everybody's always like, oh my god, the CS major broke a record. And it's like, we do this every year. Like every single major, CS gets bigger and bigger and bigger on its own from the pure community aspect and from the tournaments. But Valve wants nothing to do with it, even though it breaks Dota's records when it comes to majors. It breaks everybody else's records, and it's for a 250,000 prize pool, maybe a million, and we're still smashing records. Like, come on, Siege, the Invitational, $3 million prize pool for a game that is nowhere, in my personal opinion, is nowhere near the esports level of CS:GO.
Nope.
But Valve doesn't care. Valve doesn't want to do anything like that, and it makes me so frustrated to see, because when you break records and it's like it's on every news site, it's on every esports news, and you're like, oh, that's really sick, like good on CS:GO, and you think Valve would be like, good on our community, let's give them something, or let's bump the prize pool. No, they do fuck all for CS. They're essentially just the people that go, oh, we need to update something because it's broken. I guess we'll do it.
And it breaks my heart because like during COVID, CS:GO grew like in terms of player base. It grew.
Yeah.
It has the highest peak in on Twitch outside of Dota. I mean, sorry, on not Twitch, on Steam in terms of participation and active users besides Dota. And I'm like,
And it
what
doesn't make
more
sense.
Valve?
Like,
Like, what more does Valve need?
yeah, it's
Like
a complete green flag for Valve, because everybody's locked inside. They could play any game in the world. They're stuck at home. But what do they play? They play Counter-Strike.
yeah,
Counter-Strike peaked over 1 million players for the first time in a long time, like consistent. And then it broke the numbers for Dota for like active use in the past couple of months. And it's like, when will Valve learn that CS is loved by a lot of people? Even my
yeah.
friends who play Dota, even like, for example, you as an FGC player or FGC fan and stuff. It's like, my Dota friends love it. They watch the majors and they don't even play
I
the game.
I love it.
Yeah.
Counter Strike is so good. Like it's a great game, right? It's just I don't like Valve is pretty dick. And here's the weird thing: like, why does Valve care about sponsors for a game they don't like? Like they're not trying to get more sponsors. Like all you have to do, all the CS like community's asking for is, hey, if you want us to have a major, please like and just release something.
Yeah. Let it be
We'll
crowdfunding.
fund it. We'll fund it ourselves. Like
Yeah.
that's what they're trying to say. Like that's what you want. Like you as a CS player is asking Valve, hey, can you release a community like fund pack or the money that I give to you to pay for your developers to for you to make money? You'll split it with other people, other organizers, other teams in my Counter Strike community because I want to because you as a person of the FPS community, Counter Strike community, want to support Counter Strike. So you're just asking Valve, hey, can you give me another outlet to help support my game because I love my game. And Valve has no reason to say, no, that's a bad idea because I don't like making money. Like,
You
no,
know,
they don't have to say that.
the dumb thing too is, come like a little down the line. I don't think they're gonna do it right away, but Riot's gonna do it first. Riot's gonna be like, here's a skin pack. It's new and exclusive. It's gonna be up all month, and it'll be in its own esports section. So there'll still be the featured pack, and it'll be an extra pack at the top that'll be like, support the major, and people will buy it. Riot will break records, and they'll be like, wow, we got a lot of money from that. And Valve will sit there and go, why can't we do this? And they'll be so confused, and they'll be sitting there and they'll wonder why the game is losing its fan base. Sure, the active players are still high, but the people that love the game, why do you think they're all moving over to Valorant? Look at JW. He just got benched from Fnatic on CS, and there's
Yeah.
heavy rumors that he's going to Valorant. If he goes to Valorant,
yeah, it's crazy.
it's CS is officially losing its player base, at least in the
Dude,
pro level. Sorry.
dude, a lot of pros are planning to switch over because
Yeah.
like they see how Riot's treating like the fans there. They're like, Riot cares. And then, here's the best part. I bet you they're not going to do it for the third Masters tournament. They're going to do it for the final stage of their tournament season, which is, I think, is called the championship. That championship season, they're going to release like a Dota community pack. Bro, I'm going to buy it, right?
Oh,
Because you know why?
100%.
Okay, so here's what. So I was listening to another, because I'm such a fucking nerd, right? I was listening to I always listen to when the developers release a skin with the guy named Hitscan. I watch that channel a lot. Because like, it's great inside whatever. And he always interviews the developers when they release a new skin. in this latest skin, the Sentinel of Light skin that they released, or they're planning to release after this Ruination skin, which is like like Legends theme. The developers are talking about how they're using all the data of us buying these skins for something, right? And I think the hint is they're gonna create an amazing skin pack for the final stage of their like competitive pro tour, and it's gonna be like everything we want, like literally
Yeah.
everything we. And they're like, yeah, this is why we're doing like a ton of like variations of like similar skins because like you guys keep buying, like you guys aren't buying the nice shiny one, you guys like the Edgelord dark one, right? So
Yeah.
like the final like right, I just think right like from what their developers are talking about, even when they release skins, they have us in mind,
Yeah.
right? Why can't Valve do that?
And
Like
that's the biggest difference, right? Like when Riot does make skins, I will be the first to admit Riot skins are way more expensive than CS to an extent. Now, obviously, you can buy a case, but cases are terrible in CS:GO. But if you buy a skin, maybe it's a blue, a purple, even a pink, maybe even a covert. Sometimes it'll be like $50 max, but you can sell the skin and you can trade it, whatever. And then
yeah,
obviously there's skins that are like 25 grand in CS:GO.
right.
But for the basic price of a skin, for that package, for the featured package, it's expensive, and I'll be the first to admit that.
Yes.
But like you said, they're giving us what we genuinely want, and they're such nice skins and so well designed and thought out that I go, I'm okay paying that price.
Yo, and here's the best part. I don't have to open up a case and gamble
Yep,
my life away, right? Like I don't have to rack up my credit card to get like a skin. They're just like, hey, we have this pack for you, and
you're
it
gonna
looks
like
like
it.
yeah. And then here's the best part. They have like even they still have a gambling type of system,
Yeah,
right? And where like you go to the shop and then there's 5 random skins that they previously released at the end of the day, and then maybe the skin you really want will show up there. But like that's the thing, I didn't have to pay for that.
yeah, it
They
just
literally showed me,
refreshes.
yeah, it just refreshes. And they're just like, hey, this is what's up for sale this week. You can get it. And I'm just like, thank God I didn't have to buy a skin, then buy a case, then hope I got another shotgun skin. Like that costs 10 cents. I just
Yeah,
paid $10 for this. Well, $5 in total. Right. Sometimes the cases are like $100 because of like whatever rarity it is. But like I don't have to do that. I don't know. It's just
it's
fucking
frustrating.
Valve.
Yeah, yeah, fuck Valve.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I just wish they would pull their head out their ass a little bit. Stop selling us what we don't want. But something that is getting sold that we do want is that new 100 Thieves Gucci bag.
Okay. I was actually very okay, very, very happy with what they released, actually. Because it's a and people are gonna say, hey, this just looks like a red bag with like small subtle pattern and like the 100 Thieves patch on it. It is done so classy, so well. I could wear that in public and they'll be like, wow, you got a Gucci bag. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I've never seen that colorway before because Gucci never makes a solid colorway for a bag unless it's in like one of their iconic colors, which is like tan, green, or red.
Yeah,
This is a different hue of red. It's a 100 Thieves red. It's got a nice fucking like embroidered, like not embroidered, but like a very subtle pattern printed into it. Sorry, embossed into it. And then it has like the subtle 100 Thieves branding on the little, like on the top of the flap of the bag. And I thought it was really good. It's like, I'm very happy with that. I thought that could have gone sideways. Now, am I going to buy it?
not
It's
for the
already sold
price.
out, dude. You were right. The resellers got to it.
Yeah.
And it was $2,400. So I was definitely not buying it.
You know what we
That's
were also right about?
mhm.
We were right. Well, more so you were right about Gucci did not take the risk of letting 100 Thieves get their own pattern.
No, they did
So
not. They did not get a whole pattern, and the best part is they didn't get an entire apparel line. So Gucci was like, "We're gonna minimize this esport risk.
yeah.
What we're gonna do? Gamers need bags."
Yeah. And it is a nice bag. Like, and I understand they make their own version of their bag, so it's essentially just an addition,
Mhm.
like a special edition, but it's nice. Like it looks good. I think it was the perfect amount of 100 Thieves. Like I said, you were right about the not giving them their own pattern, and I think that is the safety factor for Gucci.
Yeah.
Um, Do I still think it's going to end up in the hands of gamers? Probably not. But
Mm.
for the people that are gamers and do get it, all the power to you. You know, if you've got that money to spend and you like it, I think it is a cool purchase. I'm surprised it was a bag though. That's the biggest thing for me.
I I think so. Here's the thing: Gucci bags are very like Gucci, like that's their hallmark item. So
Yeah.
in a way, it's like it's very representative of the relationship. They're like, hey, we kind of trust you. This is a risk, but we're gonna trust you with our iconic trademark, which is the Gucci bag, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna give you like we're gonna get please design a Gucci bag, and they did. It's a great job. It's a well designed bag. It's got the 100 Thieves red, which by the way, like once again, Gucci would never do that. Will never let you run your own color. So it shows them that there is some type of trust, but it's a very safe option because, like I said, you did not design an entire apparel line yet for Gucci. Now that this bag has sold out, they can gauge the interest, and I bet you they didn't. They made the minimum amount of bags needed to make that, which
Yeah.
is like I think for a company that big, 500 is the minimum, I believe, or maybe like I'm estimating 500 to 1,000, but more so 500, closer to 250, 500. Um, I think, and that's not a lot considering Gucci's like $1 billion enterprise, and obviously 100 Thieves has a ton of reach, right?
Yeah.
So 250 to 500 bags made, like that's not a lot. But if it all sold out, that it shows you how, and especially at the speed of it, which only took like 18 minutes, 20 minutes. That's fast. That's great. That's like almost sneaker like. So
Yeah.
it's good job. Good job.
If 100 Thieves do another one, they will definitely do sneakers with another. Obviously not with Gucci, but I think they'll do it with like Nike or Adidas or something.
Yeah. Which is a much more logical step.
Yeah, and I think they'll do that step backwards because I don't think they'll have the. I honestly just don't think they'll have the resources to do like another Gucci right away.
No.
No. But the sneaker, if they do sneakers, those things are gonna sell out like that. Like, I mean,
Yep.
100 Thieves essentially just appeals to sneaker heads for the most part. Like, I mean, because Nate, that's the thing. People can relate to Nate Shot because Nate Shot is a sneakerhead. Like, he loves all his custom sneakers. He loves all the sneakers he can get his hands on and shit. Just shoes in general. And I think I think that'll be something we see next. And we'll have to see if any other brands follow along and do any of these big collaborations.
For sure. Now, speaking of designer, we got to talk about this apology from that Siege guy who stole that shit. Deadbird did apologize, and you told me about this, and I was reading it, and dude, I don't know. What do you think of his apology?
So I'm just gonna cut essentially right to the chase with this one. I think Dark Zero have handled this situation because I gotta give them props. They handled this situation perfectly. They did what in their power. You know, they started their investigation, and they came out a couple of days ago and said he's no longer going to be with Dark Zero, and they've shut it down. And they apologized and they reached out to all the artists involved. Now, for his apology, I think, and I'm just going to be really blunt about this, it's probably the most cowardly apology you can make.
Mhm.
And if you haven't read it, I'm sure you can find it on Twitter if you're into Siege. But he essentially said, "Yes, I did reference and I did recreate community art, but I've never stolen art." And I read that, and I'm sure Drew read that, and my brain instantly goes, when I recreate something and I copy you, that is me stealing your art. And I don't know, Drew. How did that come into your brain?
Okay, here's the thing. There's a fine line between like doing a parody, a satire, or essentially quote unquote riffing, right? Not riffing as in riff. Uh, and then there's like stealing. Riffing is when you steal something so big, so popular that you're just making a subtle parody of it. Like that's why Weird Al gets away with all his fucking parody music because he's just riffing on a popular tune, right? And everyone's cool with it. Why? Because it's so popular, so big. Almost the common like the common person will be like, "Oh, I know that. That's like a parody of Michael Jackson's Beat It." This dude stole someone's community artwork. That community artwork, that guy could have like I didn't know what the fuck that piece was, right? I didn't know what the community artwork was. This guy was passing it off as it was original, and that's the problem. If he just straight up was like, "Hey, I saw this cool artwork from X artist, and I decided to take the pose," like, yeah, I don't think we'd be in this situation at all. I think he still would be working for Dark Zero, like
Yeah.
if he did that, because that's basically like all like no one's gonna listen to an artist break down their work except for other artists. Now, when other artists see that, hey, this guy parodied my work and he gave me credit for parodying my work or like referencing my work, like that's cool. That's like I'll give you kudos. He didn't
Yeah.
fucking do that. He literally stole it and was like, I'm gonna make my $1,000,000. Like I'm a Fiverr artist. Yeah, I'm the best. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck, dude, this guy is and he's super popular. He has a bigger Deadbird has a bigger following than the artist he referenced, and that's not cool.
Yeah,
That's
I
not fucking
think
cool.
I think a big part of it too is that when because a lot of the people were obviously in those communities, like because it was a lot of Valorant art, Siege art, some stuff like the Samurai Girl wasn't Siege related, but for example, the Valorant art, you could have literally reached out to them and said, "We love this. Like, we use it?" And I can almost guarantee you, if A, they're a fan of Dark Zero and it was drawn for Dark Zero in the first place, or even two, they're just a Valorant fan, you could reach out to them, pay them the money because you fucking Dark Zero definitely has some money, and just get them in on the project. You could literally do a community collab and get all the original artists, pay them as much as they want if it's reasonable, and have a great piece.
Here's a real story, right? I made a real logo, and I referenced this logo from a very popular fan art, right? But I reached out to the artist and I said, "Hey, can I? So here's a logo I made. I'm about to give it to the client because they like this version of because I made obviously a ton of variations, right? I'm gonna give it to this client. I Can we use it? Can we use your because your head your illustration is the inspiration for this logo." They said, and I asked them how much is the licensing fee because I would like to use because I reference your work so much, like blah blah blah, like I would want to use it because I don't want to get sued by you, and two, like everyone knows this artwork's very known. Like you're the artist. I gave you the like literally I have the chat log and everything. I was like, hey, I'm giving you. I literally took your work because it was like I took your head of the work that of the artwork you made. I made it into a logo. How much can I pay for a licensing fee for commercial purposes? And they're like, yeah, here's X amount. And then I gave them like I don't know, double the money because I was getting paid a lot more than the licensing fee they asked for. And I just felt bad because I loved the work and that they did. And I just used their head and said, this is not only the inspiration, this is the reference for it. So I gave them the commercial licensing fee, and I have it in document and everything. And what happens? Everybody's happy. Not
Yeah.
only that, I paid them double the licensing fee.
Yeah, it's a good day for
I made
everybody.
their day. I literally made their day, like by paying them, and I got paid too. Now here's the thing: I got paid. I paid them half of what I got paid because let's face it, like even though I made 7, 10 different variations of a logo, like not variations, different types of logos, the direction they wanted was this guy's base artwork,
Yeah.
and it was like I just felt bad because I was like, hey, like if dude, they really like your work. I tried to alter it like so much that it wasn't your work, but they still liked your work, and I just gave them money, and I was like, here you go. Here's half of what I'm getting paid to do this.
Yeah. And
And
that's
they're
the big
like,
thing, right?
and
Like,
it's tripled the licensing fee. They're like super
yeah.
happy. Like
Yeah, and
you
that's
could
the
have done
biggest
that. Like
thing.
you could have just done that.
And honestly, yeah, that is the biggest thing because you can keep artists happy, and that's when you if you really like you said, if you want to reference something, that's fine. You don't have to always get permission to reference, but only to reference. Like if you're not
Yeah.
directly using it, but if you do end up using it and you use it quite heavily, then yeah, get permission to use it. And if it's still original art after that, but again, heavily referenced, it's still there's professional ways around this. It's even if I, for example, when I was coming up with YouTube content ideas for
Yeah.
Parabellum, I would go look at the YouTube channel and be like, oh, or go look at another esports org and be like, oh, I like that idea. I like that idea. I like that idea. Did I take their footage? Hell no. But that's good referencing. You're allowed to do that. You can look at a tree outside for a painting. That's referencing. but you're not taking the real tree and putting it on paper, that would be copyright.
Yeah, like,
It's
and it's
so weird.
silly. It's so weird. And all you have to do is ask, like, for commercial purposes, and you
Yeah,
just
it's a
state legal
30-minute
terms.
conversation. Like,
It's like a 30-minute. It's like, hey, I'm gonna be using this for X thing. It's gonna be mass reproduced. Here's the actual. And I don't have to tell them how much I was making off a project,
yeah,
but like I do it out of courtesy, right? I'm like, here's how much I'm making off this project. Now I put in a ton of work, but obviously they love like what I they loved your your reference head work, and I just felt really bad if I just took your head,
yeah,
like because like this guy drew out full body art, but I just took the head of it, and I was like, here you go. I'm just
yeah,
like, here, have your day. And then I paid him triple the amount because that's equal to half of what I got paid, and he was super happy. And
yeah.
I was like, great. And dude, like you never know, like that. I don't.
It's just at the end of the day, keeping everybody happy. There's always professional ways to do things, and I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing to do professionally is end this episode. So we are gonna be back on Friday. We're gonna be back with another episode. We're gonna keep you guys updated with all of this going on. We've implemented new chapters, so you'll see it down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you don't like any of the topics we talk about from this episode onward, you're gonna be able to skip through them. And we've got some big news coming through. But don't forget to follow us on Twitter for all that news at the Re-Frag TV. Yeah, we'll see you Friday.